Okay, so one of the really big projects that I wanted to complete in 2023 is reading the Fate Stay Night visual novel. I've watched several of the anime adaptations, both of the VN and of other Fates, other Fate properties. I've seen the Dean anime of the Fate route a couple times. I've seen the UBW adaptation. I didn't finish the Heaven's Feel movies, and it's not like I was like, oh, this is so bad, I'm not gonna watch it. I watched the first one around when it came out, the second one around when it came out, and I've just haven't gotten around to reading the third one, or excuse me, watching the third one. And since I'm gonna read the route, at this point, I'd rather just kind of hold off, and I'll probably watch them all again later. I've I tried watching Fate Extra, and I kind of fucking hated it really quickly. I tried watching Apocrypha, and I think I got like half, maybe two-thirds in, and I just did not care to finish it. And I've played a shit ton of Fate Go. I am not going to disclose how much money I have spent on Fate Go because I don't know, and that's not a good thing. I am not proud of it, but it is what it is. Right here, I actually have a couple Fate prints. There's Elia and her mom, and then here's Saber and Gil. And over here, I would turn it, but that's literally where the sun is coming in. I actually tried to start filming from that angle to show off all my Fate figures, but it just didn't work. So probably after, I'll just like post on the community tab, like, yeah, here's my collection of Fate figures. It's still growing. I have some that I've pre-ordered that haven't been shipped or showed up yet, but needless to say, I really like the idea of Fate. I think the concept of a Grail War is really fucking cool. And what I have consistently heard from people who have read the VN is this is by far the best way to experience it. The adaptations, a lot of the times they just don't get Shiro's character right. Or, because I know the Dean anime just takes a bunch of different routes and kind of meshes. Like, it's the Fate route, but with some other shit. And having read the Fate route and a little bit of Unlimited Blade Works, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't, I remember that scene. That wasn't in it. That wasn't in it. Oh shit, that part from the anime, that's from UBW. That's also from UBW. They actually took quite a bit. That's fucking weird. So this is why I wanted to do it. It's like, I wanted to experience the original for myself. I guess you could say the story was meant to be experienced. On top of that, it's, if everyone says this is the best version, let me judge it at its best. I am playing the Rialta Nua version, so I don't know if there's any... Oh, excuse me. I don't know if there's any preference between, like, this is the definitive version of the VN, if there's some changes that are made that make it less definitive, like if there's music cues that are different. I went in hearing that the sex scenes had been removed from Rialta Nua, and they aren't. At least the ones in the Fate row are. I haven't gotten that far in UBW. I just did the fight with Ryder in the forest. I'm very early in the route, and I haven't even touched Heaven's Feel. Maybe the sex scenes are still there, maybe they're not. I don't know. What I do know is I finished the Fate route, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. There are some things that don't super work for me, and even kind of like when I look at the two main characters of Saber and Shiro, there's times where I really get into their characters. There's other times where they'll kind of annoy me, sometimes together, sometimes separately. But let's kind of go into some of the specifics. So one of the first things I want to say is just presentation-wise, I really like the music. I think the music is a lot of it is kind of bass music for like the regular scenes. It's very nice, it's charming, can be kind of soothing. When shit's going down though, like the action scenes are really good, and when Emmy has started playing in the climax, because that is a song I know, and it's really good. Like, I will listen to it when I'm not even doing anything related to Fate because it's fucking hype. I kept waiting for it to play because I didn't even know if it would play in this route. It's like, Unlimited Blade Works for sure, but maybe it's not even in the Fate route. And when it came in during the climax, like that's good shit. That's fucking money. And a lot of the just CGs, just like I actually do like the way the characters look. I like the art. But when you get just the, like, full screen images, especially at the end... Here, let me go in and say this. This is going to be a full spoiler. It's not going to be, like, a no spoilers, mid spoilers. I'm just going to talk about fucking anything and everything in this route. So there's your fair warning. Let me count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full spoiler time. when you get that last image of Kirei, like, with the grail, and you've got Elia, like, she's being fucking crucified, like, with that background, that looked fucking incredible. There's so many shots of Berserker just being this big feral man. I'm like, man, he looks fucking cool. I think there were some pretty good ones of Gil, too. I actually, as I was going through it, I wasn't really taking note of a lot of the CG, so I was like, oh, that one's really good, that one's really good, but I liked a lot of them. The writing, I think for the most part, it's fine. There were times when I think it could almost be like a little bit... Okay, there's something I'm going to say about the writing, but I'm going to hold off on it until I talk about it. But I will say some of the descriptions are really good. You know, so a lot of it of the violence. Like, when you start getting into fights, especially in bad endings, this shit gets fucking gnarly, and I really like it. Which sounds really fucked up to say, but, like, it's a war. I want there to be bad consequences, especially in a bad ending. It's like, no, if you fucked up, you paid the price, Shiro. I do really like that. I think my favorite description is when Shiro sees Ryder for the first time. I think he described her as essentially like this evil shrine maiden. It's like something like that's just the aura I get off her. There's just like the stench of death. And when I look at that outfit, I'm not even sure where my eyes are supposed to go. I thought that was a really fun scene. But getting into some of the fights that I really liked, I think most of them are pretty good, but the ones that really stuck out to me are Saber and Ryder fighting on the skyscraper. Like, as they're running up a skyscraper, like, throwing knives, deflecting, doing all this shit. All I could think of was Kingdom Hearts. It's like, oh, this is the another story from Kingdom Hearts 1. And then the first fight with Xemnas, you're doing the same shit, and it's so fucking cool. This appeals to me on a very... Actually, I think Fate did come out after Kingdom Hearts, because didn't Kingdom Hearts come out in, like, 01, 02? Fate came out in 04. That's actually kind of weird to think about. I would have thought Fate was older until they actually did the math on it. That's interesting. No, I don't think this particular moment was like an homage to Kingdom Hearts, but I'll take it. Why not? The fight between Saber and Assassin, it's short, but I think it's really cool. Like, it's just kind of an honest sword duel. There's no real bullshit, and I love the bullshit in Fate. I love seeing noble phantasms and all, like, the insane things a heroic spirit can have in their arsenal. But this is just a duel between two sword masters, and I think it's really cool. The fight against Gilgamesh on the... I want to say it's on the bridge, but I don't think it's actually on the bridge. I think it's close to it. But when he encounters Shiro and Saber, and you get a bad ending where, like, if you don't stand up against Gil, you die... That's actually a really fucking hype fight. And I think I had another one or two written down. Oh, yeah. And then just when Berserker gets killed. When it's, all right, Saber's fighting Berserker, but they got a plan for Rin to do some shit. And then Shiro's in the back providing support or not providing support if you pick that option. Like, I did, because I thought it would... Honestly, I thought it was just going to give me a bad ending if I did that, and it didn't. But... in a way, it kind of did, which we'll get to that. But I actually thought that was a really cool fight. I liked all the strategy involved with it. I was really hoping that there would be an interlude where we would see the fight between Berserker and Archer, but unfortunately we didn't get it. Which, weirdly enough, the Dean anime does. I guess I can't really say weirdly enough. It almost kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, let's just throw this in here. Give him an excuse to play Emiya, which I don't remember if it played in the climax of that show. It should have. It probably did, but it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't remember. But those are some of the fights I remember really liking. So now let me talk about some of the bad endings I really liked. Tiger Dojo 13 is probably my favorite bad ending in the game, at least to this point. So what that one is, for those who are unaware... So let me explain what a Tiger Dojo is. So every time you get a bad ending, you get the option to go to the Tiger Dojo. What that is, it is generally two characters. One is Taiga Fujimura, who is... I go back and forth between whether Fujimura is one of the best things in Fate because of how consistently funny she is, or one of the worst things in Fate because of how kind of unbelievably dumb she is and how little she seems to contribute to the overall plot. Maybe that'll change in UBW and Heaven's Feel. At least as the Fate route is concerned, she's Shiro's guardian and his teacher, and she doesn't really do a whole lot. And I can easily see someone reading this and being like, she's super annoying. I don't think so. I think she's funny, but there's times where she almost kind of becomes annoying. But she's the host of the Tiger Dojo, which endears me a lot. The other host of the Tiger Dojo is Ilya, the Master of Berserker. And it's essentially the two of them discussing how, okay, so if you're here, it means you got this specific bad ending. And kind of discussing, like, why someone would do this. Or like, oh, if you did this, you picked the coward's way out. Don't be a fucking coward. Or, you did this. Normally, that's a pretty smart decision to do. But under the circumstances, not actually the best. Remember, context matters. Stuff like that. And I think they're really endearing. I fucking love the Tiger Dojos. So, Bad Ending 13 is... there's an invisible mechanic, which is normally something that would really bother me. But in this one, it just kind of doesn't. It's your affection rating with Saber. So I don't know if there is something like this in UBW and in Heaven's Feel. I can only assume that there is. But essentially, if Shiro's like not interacting with Saber when he has the chance, if it's like, oh, do you want to hang out with Saber or Sakura? I pick Sakura. Oh, you want to hang out with Saber or Rin? And then you pick Rin. Those decisions start to add up. When she's fighting Berserker, you have the option to like snipe Berserker and give help, or to just say, no, there's no point to it because I'm too weak. That'll add up. And if a lot of those bad choices add up, and it's just like, yeah, their bond doesn't really mean much, you get a very special bad ending. Where Kirei offers Shiro the Grail, and Shiro says no. Kirei calls him a boring motherfucker, and then says, hey, Saber, do you want the Grail? If so, kill your master. And in this ending, Saber thinks about it. She's like, I mean, like, no, like, I don't want to kill my master. You know, like, I'm a knight. That's not something a knight does. You know, I'm supposed to protect Shiro. That's why I'm here. Yeah, I'm holding an invisible sword, I guess, which matches Saber. And there's this voice in the back of her head, though, going, I do really want the Grail, though. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to kill my master for it. I'm not going to do it, but I really want the Grail. Oh shit, my hand slipped. And they're like, oh no, my hand slipped. But the way it's written is that in that moment of doubt and weakness, as she's like, I really want the Grail, her body just acts and she fucking kills him. Then when you go to the Tiger Dojo, fucking Fujimura and Ilya are like, wow. This is a bad ending that most people are probably not going to get. Because they are probably going to pick those options where they don't say stupid shit to Saber. Or they support Saber whenever they can. Or when it's an option between Saber and someone else, they're probably going to want to hang out with Saber. So yeah, they're probably going to notice that there's this one bad ending on the list. Because there's a list of like 40 endings. And then they all get stamped with a tiger icon once you've gotten to that Tiger Dojo. And they're like, yeah, they're probably gonna think like, what the fuck? How do I get this ending? Because it's not one specific choice that triggers it. It's a set of choices. And like, man, can you imagine being the person that got this ending? I'm like, yeah, I can. I can imagine it. I kind of looked into it. So from what I understand, it sounds like it's a pretty notorious bad ending to get because it's hard to get because I guess there's like actual guides on this is how to get this ending for like 100% completion. I'm like, I just got it by playing the game. I genuinely considered when I got to that point, I was like, should I just call it good and then move on to Unlimited Blade Works? What? Because like I also had to restart the game. Like no, you can't fix this. You have to restart the Fate route. On the one hand, it wasn't even like a frustration thing. Like I can't believe I have to redo the game. It's like no, I can probably just like fast forward most of it. It's an inconvenience, but it's not a huge problem. On the one hand, I don't want to just miss out on the rest of the Fate route. I want to genuinely finish it. I do want to get to UBW, but I want to get to it when I'm done with this. But on the other hand, I really like this bad ending. A lot of the other ones is like, yeah, I see this choice or this choice, and I picked this one to kind of like, again, like fishing for the bad endings to see what would happen. This was not a result of fishing for endings. This was a genuine result of my consequence of my choices and how I played the game. It almost kind of sounds fair to accept this as my fate, no pun intended, but to accept this as my fate and then move on to the next one. And I thought about it, I was like, no, I want to fucking finish the fate route, so let's do it. But I thought about it, it's a really good ending, and Saber actually kills Shiro in a couple endings in the fate route, because the other two are, while fighting Caster, she gets hit by Caster's noble phantasms, Caster takes her over as a servant, and then like, alright, go kill your master, get rid of him. Which, I do like those endings. I like how they're actually kind of caused by overconfidence rather than your cowardice. But I don't like them as much as this one. I think the Rider bed endings are fine. I think the Kirei bed endings are fine. Like, I do like them. Some of the Ilia bad endings are fucking bangers, though. There's the one where, like, she captures Shiro and asks him, what is it? It's like, do you want to be my familiar? Do you want to be my servant? It's something like that. And Shiro's narration is, I have a really fucking bad feeling something will happen if I say yes. If I, like, she's a terrible person, but I don't think she actually understands the morality of the things she does or the things she talks about. Honestly, like, I don't think I said this in my Owl House video, but the way the Collector is written reminds me a lot of Ilia, specifically Fate Route Ilia, because I don't know how different she is in UPW or in the fucking Magical Girl spinoff that I haven't seen. Where she is a child that does terrible things, but there's a genuine implication that she doesn't really understand what she's doing, or like the Collector doesn't understand that there are some toys that can't be fixed once they're broken, and Ilia is very similar. And Shiro talks about that, like, there's this genuine innocence to her. And if I lie to her, I don't think she'd let me get away with that. So, of course, I picked that to see what would happen as the bad ending. And I actually really liked it, but it was fucked up. It was kind of like, cool, by agreeing to this, you made a contract with her, and you're gonna be her friend forever. I think she, like, literally takes his soul out of his body, like, by the end of it. Like, it was really fucked up to read, but I liked it. The other one that I fucking love is, it's one of the two that you get early on in the game, when you first encounter Ilia and Berserker. There's one where you just say, I don't want to fight in the Grail War, Saber is not your servant, and then Ilia just comes and fucks you up. And then I think she just takes you back to the castle. The other one is during the fight with Saber and Berserker, Shiro runs away, and then Rin goes after him. Berserker shows up, kills Rin, grabs Shiro, and fucking yeets him like 20 yards, shatters his body when he falls. The part that I love, so A, it's the fact that Shiro literally gets yeeted. 2, it is like I think it's the only bad ending where Rin explicitly died, and a lot of the other ones it's implied. And I'm not like, yeah, I'm happy Rin died. Rin's arguably my favorite character. She's fantastic. But I kind of have to give it points for actually doing that. But it's Ilia's reaction, how she just starts yelling at Berserker like, you fucking idiot! I told you not to kill him! Why? Why do you do this? I understand you're a Berserker, you don't think. But do you really have to be this stupid? You are lucky, mister, that you have multiple lives, because I would fucking take all of them right now. I will kill you myself if he's actually fucking dead. I was laughing so hard at that ending. It was amazing. Like, until Tiger Dojo 13, that was my favorite bad ending. 13 is my favorite at this point. It's the best of the Fate route. But the fucking yeeting Shiro is top tier. Oh, just kind of going into a lot of the other memorable scenes. Like I said, the way Ryder's introduction, mostly because I love the descriptions they used. The horror scene in the church, when Shiro is looking at Kirei's, like, all the dead kids who aren't actually dead, and, like, the description of that, and how it is just fucking with him. That is an incredibly memorable scene. It's one of the few times I was like, oh, I feel like I actually just straight up started reading a horror novel. And from what I understand, that's what Heaven's Feel is. It's, Unlimited Blade Works ups the actual, like, war and strategy aspect from the Fate route, and Heavens feels like, no, it's just a horror story at this point. Everything went to shit really quick. But that, to me, that was a very memorable scene. Shinji getting absolutely fucked up by Ilya. That's a favorite scene of mine, because fuck Shinji Mato, what an absolute piece of shit. And so it is kind of funny to me that it's like, yeah, Ilya doesn't understand what she's doing is wrong. She doesn't really understand mortality. But she does kill somebody, and it's like, you can't even be mad at her for it because that guy is such a piece of shit. Honestly, just the scene with, like, the fight with Ryder in the school, I think the fight itself is, like, it's pretty okay. But it's Shinji, or Shiro beating the shit out of Shinji, and it's so satisfying to read. I have the first scene in the church, because of 2 words. If you know Fate, you know what I'm talking about. Yorokobe Shonen. That shit is so satisfying, I don't know why. Kirei's voice is wonderful. I loved listening to it. Like, I would often just kind of, like mash spacebar when it would be dialogue. Not all the times, I don't want to say, like, I would often do it, but there were times I was like, okay, I kind of just want to, like, read a little faster so I won't hear everything fully voiced. I couldn't do that with Kirei. Kirei's voice is wonderful. Here I have Shiro and Saber fight, but I'm trying to think. The fight. I was like, when the fuck do they fight? I don't remember them throwing hands. I remember now. It's after the date, and then when they're on the bridge. And essentially, they have a conversation about how the 2 of them are inherently the same person, but they're both so stubborn. It's like Shiro would... How do I say this? Shiro and Saber are essentially the same person, and each of them thinks the other is a fucking moron for how they live their life. Like, what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is wrong. And Saber even kind of says, like, after Shiro gives her, like, this long spiel about how, like, no, I don't think you actually want to fight. I don't think you have the soul of a warrior. Like, it's not something you want, you know, you should be able to just live a normal life. You know, you gave your life for those people. You don't have to keep giving your life for them. They don't deserve that, etc., etc. And Saber just kind of, like, lets him talk. You know, you of all people I thought would have actually understood me. But clearly you don't understand a goddamn thing. So let me sum it up for you. My goal at the start of this was to get the Holy Grail. My goal now that we are approaching the end, is to get the Holy Grail. Everything else is unnecessary. Even you. It was so cold. Like, damn. She just cooked that guy. And then, you know, like a couple scenes later, they make up, and it's sweet, and then you get the fight with Gil, which is really, like, that whole scene with Gilgamesh is fantastic. Gilgamesh's intro, that's not Gil's intro. His intro is when he shows up and he just murders Castor. Because, like, the fight with Castor was fine. And, like, this is pretty okay, but I like the bad ending. I think that gives an interesting wrinkle. He shows up, snaps his fingers, and Castor is gone. She doesn't really amount to much in this route. So her role felt really expanded in the T anime. I was actually shocked how little of a role she plays in this route. But yeah, that moment where he kills Castor was very memorable to me. The Tiger Dojos, because I fucking love them. The climax of when Emiya is playing and both of them use Avalon against Kirei and Gilgamesh. That is incredible. But if I'm going to talk about memorable scenes in Fate, and I'm going to talk about a climax. Earlier I was talking about there's times where the writing is interesting. So let's talk about the sex scenes. They're just as funny as I heard they were. I think they're even funnier than I expected. So in the Fate route, there's 2. The first one is while they're on the run from Ilya and Berserker. They hold up in, like, a little cabin. And they're like, okay, let's take stock. Archer is dead. Rin has no servant now. And she has, like, she doesn't have a whole lot of magic gems left in reserve. If she does, It might be enough to kill a Berserker, but I mean, it's not super easy. Saber is running on fumes. She does not have enough magic to use her Noble Phantasm. She barely has enough energy to move. And Shiro is, well, he's Shiro. He's not really helping. And not to be fucking rude to Shiro. I do like him and stuff, but there's times where I think he can be kind of annoying. But regardless, it's like, yeah, he's not really helping. At least not at this point. He fucking helps out a lot in that fight by the end. They're like, okay, what do we do? Like, well, Saber's the only servant, so we have to be able to give her magic. But like, yeah, but Rin, I can't do that. Like, I don't, like, for some reason, it just doesn't quite work. There's some kind of issue, and Ren's like, what? Well, there is another way. You can sleep with her. What? What? Yeah. You know, Amagus' semen is a cluster of magic. It's so, I've gotten used to saying that with a straight face. I'm actually surprised I can do that, because I was laughing so hard that line was written seriously and delivered seriously. I can't say delivered seriously because there's no voice acting in like when they're talking about the sex scenes, but it's in character. She is saying it with a straight face. Yeah, dude, your cum is magic. Like, just, what the fuck? What the fuck am I reading? And speaking of reading and fucking, it is just insane. Like, it's so intense and so graphic. Because it's not just like, okay, you have to sleep with her, and then, you know, they kiss, they cuddle, you know, they kind of talk about taking off their pants, and then, you know, kind of yada, yada, yada. No, this shit is detailed. Like, and then you get the images too. So like, oh, okay, now I'm just seeing everybody naked. Like, oh, there's the penetration. And then at one point he's like, oh, you like taking it from behind, you dirty. I'm like, what the like, where did this come from? Like, 10 minutes ago, this was an intense chase scene, and how you guys were like, our boy back there is buying us time, and the second he's dead, we are not going to be far behind. We are terrified for our lives. And now you're having an orgy. What the fuck? This is hysterical. And it really is a combination of both how out of nowhere it is and how genuinely, like, intense and graphic the description of the sex is. It's insane, and I was howling for like 20 straight minutes at what I was reading. And then they do it again, where I will admit, the setup is less funny. It is a very sweet moment between Saber and Shiro. Okay, I can't say it's super sweet, because it starts off a little creepy, where they're kind of having a moment, and then Shiro's essentially like, you know, I can't hold back anymore. Like, I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna keep going until you tell me to stop. Now, when you tell me to stop, I will stop. But I'm gonna go until you tell me to stop. I'm like, I don't know, Shiro. That's a little aggressive. Like, it's almost a little rapey. I don't know. This made me kind of uncomfortable. To which Saber's response is essentially, okay, I don't really feel like that's what our relationship should be, Shiro. But I mean, I am kind of running low on magic. And, you know, if we're going to go fight Gilgamesh again, because we just did that shit, and I mean, you barely lived, I barely lived, I could use the magic. So, I mean, your cum is magic. It's so, dude, my face is red from how hard I'm laughing at this shit. Like, it's so insane. And then, yeah, I mean, Saber just starts sucking his dick. And then maybe he was like, all right, you did me, let me do you. And he performs cunnilingus. Oh, God, when it was like I started licking her love juice, I was fucking crying laughing. I've heard the ones at Heaven's Feel are worse. I've heard the Heaven's Feel sex scenes is just like the funniest part of the entire novel. And it's like, man, it's worse. It gets worse than this. It gets funnier than this. I can't wait, and I'm also terrified of what I'm in store for. Like, oh man, what's the Unlimited Blade Works going to be? Because Rin, in like that threesome they have with Berserker, she gets them both in the mood. She's the one that starts everything. Like, Saber doesn't really know what she's doing in either of the sex scenes, but I mean, she's trying her best. She wants to, make her man happy and, get his magical cum. I think I did it with a straight face that time. And then... oh god, Ren is gonna be so aggro during their sex scene. There's a part of me that's like, I don't want to read this shit, but also, boy, that's gonna be legendary. It's gonna be so funny. Oh, I don't really have anything else to say about memorable scenes. It does not get more memorable than the sex scenes in Fate. That alone is worth the price of admission, which was free, by the way, but itchy nose. But, oh man, I thought the weird CG dragon, like the terrible looking CG dragon in the Dean anime, was just top tier weird funny. It's not nearly as funny as the actual sex scene. But talking about other stuff, moving away from the sex. One of the things I find really interesting about the Fate route, I guess kind of all the routes in general, is how it's not the first Grail War in terms of chronology, but in terms of audience, I don't want to say participation, audience exposure, this is the first one, because this was the first piece of Fate media that there was. You didn't get Grail War, I think this is the 5th, you didn't get Grail War number 4 in Fate 0, because that wasn't written until way later, and I don't think we have anything of 1 through 3, and then, any other side shit. The reason I bring that up is because they kind of keep breaking the rules of the Grail War. They're like, okay, there's only 7 servants. Also, partway through, here's Gilgamesh. So, there's an 8th dude. Now, he's a holdover from the previous war, but yeah, instead of 7, it's 8. They talk about it like, this is what a heroic spirit is. And then by the end, it's like, actually, Saber is... but she isn't, but she is, but she isn't. And so, yeah, kind of ignore that rule. You have Assassin, who's a servant, but they kind of talk about it like he's like, oh yeah, but I don't have a noble phantasm. Why? Oh, I was just kind of summoned weird. Like, he's a fake servant, but he still counts toward the 7? Like, what? And it hasn't been explained, it's not explained in the Fate route, but I know in other routes, Assassin is actually caster's servant, so a servant can become a master and have their own servant, which sounds like its own just rabbit hole of bullshit. And it's fascinating to me. It's like, here are the very specific rules about how this works. You understand? Yes. Okay, now we're breaking all of them in the first route. And again, like, the caster one isn't explained at this point, but it is still what is actively happening in the story. And it's just, it's a very interesting strategy, if I say so myself. And kind of while I'm on that subject, like, Assassin has one scene, and it's a cool scene, and you never see him again. He gets killed off screen. Caster does nothing. Like, you don't learn her identity, you don't meet her master. She just kind of shows up, talks some shit, gets a cool, pretty memorable bad ending, and gets an incredibly memorable death, and that's it. Lancer has a few scenes. Ryder, I think, has some, like, really good fight scenes. So, like, I can't be like, yeah, Ryder was underutilized. I think she was utilized actually pretty well. Same with Berserker. Berserker's fantastic. But, like, yeah, it does feel like there are some characters that just... Archer in particular, which I know, at least with Archer... he is the main servant of Unlimited Blade Works. I know Ryder's the main servant, of Heaven's Feel. So they really get a lot of screen time later, but I don't know how much screen time Caster and Assassin or Lancer really get in those other routes. So they might just kind of get done dirty, which I think is a bit of a disappointment. And yeah, like I said, you never meet Assassin's master in this arc, at least knowingly, and same with Caster's. It's kind of weird. Alright, so at this point, it's just me talking about our 2 leads. I guess I kind of go into the other characters. Like I said, Fujimura, I think she's fucking hilarious. I think she's also a bit too stupid, but I still think she's endearing. I think the Tiger Dojos do a lot for that, for me. Sakura is there. She just doesn't do much. She doesn't leave much of an impact. I understand Heaven's Feel. She is the star of the show. But she doesn't do much in this. I don't know how much she does in UBW either. Kirei, whenever he's on screen, it is the best part. I love his voice. I love his character. I love a lot of that also comes from Fate Zero, where like it just made him my favorite character in the Fate franchise. I fucking love Kirei. I think he's a fascinating character. And in this, like, yeah, he's just such a bastard. I just enjoy it a lot. Gil, again, he is a ton of fun. Real grade A piece of shit. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like, oh, this guy's great. I have no problems with him. No, like, he's basically telling Saber, yeah, when this is all done, I am going to rape you. I'm like, no, he's a fucking piece of shit. But, like, I love his ego. Like, how much he loves himself makes him a very fun character as well. I like Elia a lot. Rin is also arguably my favorite character. What I love about Rin, at least as far as the Fate route is concerned, she does have those tsundere tendencies, but they're less of, it's not like I like you or anything, but Baka, like she's too embarrassed of her feelings to admit them, and just more like, oh my god, this guy is so fucking stupid. I can't believe that this idiot is involved in a Grail War. I can't believe that this buffoon summoned the best servant. And that his incredibly top-tier servant basically one-shot mine. So this war I've been preparing for 10 years, like for pretty much my entire life, I'm sidelined for. Because I saved this moron and wanted to make sure he was okay. I am not happy. And I get that. I'm like, you have every reason to just be pissed off and frustrated all the time. And I like that aspect of her, I guess, tsundere tendencies. It's like, no, she doesn't. She genuinely looks down on him because she is better than him. And it just kind of makes it more fun to me. So, I'm actually going to take a break. I've been doing this for like 40 minutes. And then I have to talk about these two. And I was be like, I don't want to talk about these. But I feel like it's going to be kind of long as well. So, I'm just going to take a break. I'll try to combine them later, which normally works. I know it did not work with my Azure video for whatever fucking reason, so hopefully that's not a problem again. Okay, so I took a tiny bit of a break to kind of cool down a little bit because it was starting to get kind of warm in my room. So let me go ahead and finish off this video by talking about what I think of our two leads. Starting with Artoria Pendragon, or she's called in Fate Go Altria Pendragon, and god, I hate how that looks and sounds. I don't think the name Altria is actually that bad, but Artoria actually sounds like a female version of Arthur, especially the way it's spelled, and that's what I'm used to. In every version of Fate I've seen, it is Artoria, not Altria. Fate Go, why do you do this? But regardless. What I love about Saber is the duality in her character. I guess almost the triality in another way. So you got one aspect of her character, which is the... Sorry, bomb, I just ran across my phone. Is that she is a knight. She is someone who is very chivalrous. Whenever she fights, she always wants it to be fair. She doesn't want civilians to get involved. There's this sense of fair play and a code, and like always respecting her opponent when she fights, which is something I do like. And it's contrasted with how fucking aggro she is. Like, I want to say especially in this route, but I can't say that since I haven't actually read the other two routes. But I look at the way she's written Fate Zero, she seems more like the traditional knight. It's like, yes, like I do want to fight, I do want to make sure I win, but she's not like constantly at the throats of the other servants. Like, I want to go kill this one, I want to go kill this one. There's literally a point in this route where they realize there's a master at Ryudo Temple. And Saber's like, oh, we know someone's here. Let's go fuck them up. We know that someone's there. I'm ready to fight. Let's go. And Shiro's like, hold on a second. No. It's fucking late. I'm tired. I don't remember, because something had just happened before that. I don't remember what it was specifically, but I think it was to some degree of like, you know, you've just been in a fight. I know you're saying that you're ready to go, but you could still heal up a little bit more. I'm exhausted. Rin is exhausted. I think Rin was even actively saying, like, you're going straight into enemy territory at that point without knowing who the fuck they are. that's dumb. You should have a plan. Shiro's like, no, I agree with that. We need a plan. And after he gets into an argument with Saber, Saber literally in the middle of the night leaves to just go to the temple. She's like, my master's not going to do it. I'm going to take care of it myself. I'm like, why are, to quote my boy Hot Pop from Amphibia, why are you so aggro? That's not actually the quote. The quote is, why is everything you say so aggro to Sasha? But regardless, it's the same thing. It's like, why are you so aggro? Calm down, dude. Like, just fucking chill for a second. And all of that is also mixed. The reason I said kind of a triality is the way she, like I said earlier, and I'll probably say again when I'm talking about Shiro specifically, she and Shiro are mutual hypocrites. They are not that different. They are both people who are willing to sacrifice their sense of self for others. One is because of, well, we'll talk about Shiro when we get to Shiro, but for Saber, it's because I am the king, and as the king, you give up yourself to look after your people. Like, the kingdom kind of just becomes who you are, and everything you do is for the sake of the kingdom, which includes the other people. You stop becoming a person at that point because it's not about what I want, it's about what's best. And whenever she goes after Shiro, I'm like, you don't even consider yourself when you do anything. And it's not that you don't value yourself because you hate yourself or you don't see yourself as like good enough to be valued. You're just not even a factor in your decisions. Like, you're so fundamentally broken. It's actually kind of fascinating, but it's also fucking dangerous. And she kind of, there are points where I'm like, you kind of got a lot of gall to say shit like that. Like, because you're really not that different, dude. But overall, I still like her. I think, to me, Saber's at her best when she's unintentionally really funny. Like, she's so serious about something. A good example is during the date when she's like, I don't get it. Why are we doing this? What's this for? Shiro just kind of has to eventually dumb it down and explain it to. I like you and I want to spend the day with you. Oh. I mean, this doesn't seem like it'll help us win, but I guess it's a day of rest, so I can let it slide. And then when they actually go into the stuffed animal store, and just anytime it's not just that scene. There's another scene earlier with Fujimura where she just has an affinity for lions, any like lion-shaped dolls or stuffed animals. I think it's really sweet. Another thing I find really interesting about Saber is her gender doesn't matter until it does. And I don't mean that in any way to be like gender conflicts kind of shit. It is, for a good chunk of, until they have sex for the first time, to her gender does not matter. Shiro walks in on her naked, and she's like, yeah, I don't care. And he's like, oh my god, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's just a naked body. Dude, why do you care? Don't look at me as a woman, Shiro. We've been over this before. I am not a woman. I am a servant. I am a familiar. I am your servant. I am your sword. My gender doesn't matter. I may as well not have one. And then after they have sex, everything changes. The way she looks at him changes. The way, like, whenever they have their training sessions, Shiro notices you act different. You're not as aggressive as you used to be. Like, you're not as much of a Spartan trainer as you were. What's different? And he's not really able to put it together. Or at the very least, maybe it is in a way where it's like no, he's just not putting it together. Like, I don't want to give Shiro any credit for that. I don't think he's being more clever than he is. He's just like, ever since we had sex, you've been acting really different. Why are you acting different? What happened? But it actually is something I find kind of interesting. There's another scene later where he does walk in on her naked after they've had sex. And instead of being like, dude, who cares? She's notably very embarrassed. And like, can you not look at me, please? Like, I don't think my body is good enough. And again, like, I found those bits of her character interesting. Overall, I do like Saber. I don't think I love her character. I don't really know what it is. It's like, this, I think, is a good character. I think she works. For whatever reason, she doesn't quite click with me. It might be, like I've said, that she's just the exact same person as Shiro, more or less. And I like Shiro. I do actually like Shiro quite a bit. I've liked him a lot more reading the VN than I did otherwise. So I guess let's go ahead and transition to Shiro fucking having a what I think is so interesting about Shiro, it's the reason for his motivation. His motivation is, I want to help people, I want to save people, whatever I can do to make someone else's life a little easier, I'll do it. Whatever I can do to make the world a better place, I will do it. I just want to save people. Now, I know there's something inherently fucked up about what I had just said, because if I am saving someone, it means they're in a bad situation to begin with, and I'm not wishing for people to be in terrible situations. I just wish that I had the ability to help them when they are. Which is, that's interesting. That's pretty sweet. Like, he's a good guy. He just wants to help people. You see that a lot in protagonists. So why is that? Is it just because he's a dang good person? No, it's actually because his psyche is so fundamentally fucked up. Shiro's motivation, from my understanding, essentially comes from three things. One, it is a very childlike, which he even acknowledges, but a very childlike sense of right and wrong and wanting to be, as he says, a superhero. Like, it is what's the word I wanted? Altruistic. I think that's what I wanted to use. Like, it's a genuine altruistic sense of wanting to help people. Combined with the fact that when he was a kid, there was this massive fire and he was the only survivor. Which is something that I'm really confused about, because it's written where he's the only survivor, but then there's other parts of the story where Kirai's like, oh, you weren't the only survivor because there were several other kids that got orphaned. You were just the one that Kiritsugu saved. So I'm a little confused. Is it just so I guess several other kids made it out of the fire. Shiro's just the only one that is still accounted for. I guess, again, sometimes it feels like fate has really good ideas and then kind of breaks its own rules, and I'm not always sure what they're going for, but regardless, he was in a terrible situation and someone saved his life. And as someone who had been saved by other people, he wants to pay it forward. Someone did me a solid, and it was the greatest thing of all time. I want to be able to do that same thing for other people. And then when you get to like really close to the end, and he talks about how he saw so many people that day burning alive. He saw people begging for help, begging like, can you like drag me out? Can you take my kid? Can you like move some rubble or something? Which granted, Shiro was like 10. There wasn't a lot he could have done. But it makes it clear that like he never forgot that. He never forgot those faces. He never forgot those screams. He never forgot his sense of helplessness. And on top of that sense of helplessness, he never forgot his guilt for not doing anything. So while there is this altruistic sense of, I just want to help people, and this pay it forward sense of like, someone did something good for me, I want to help people too. It's also, I could have and should have done more. And it really does feel like it comes from a sense of survivor's guilt. And by the end, I almost feel like the survivor's guilt is kind of the strongest element of it, but it's the one he represses the most, but it has the most profound impact on him. And gosh, like whenever he's like first doing his magic training, he talks about how dangerous it is and how much pain he feels in his body, which when you read the prologue, Rin does that too. When she's doing her summoning for her servant. I'm like, this is, like, I love the way this is described. Like, again, one of those really good descriptions. Just the sensation in her body and how, like, her body doesn't even feel like human flesh anymore because this, like, process is so fucked up. Same thing with Shiro. He's like, oh yeah, like, it's essentially I create this metal rod of energy that just sticks into my back and it causes me so much pain. And if I lose enough focus, I can literally die doing this. But it's worth it because it'll make me stronger. It's worth it. Like that's how insane he is. He is willing to put himself through all of that as part of a regular routine to maybe hopefully get a little bit better so we can help someone down the road if it ever comes up. He is that dedicated. It's like Saber says, you don't consider yourself. You don't consider what this will do to you physically or mentally. And I remember watching the Unlimited Blade Works anime, And when it actually got to the confrontation between Shiro and Archer, the whole thing kind of fell apart for me. I remember the conversation feeling very cyclical, and it was essentially Shiro saying, I know what I'm doing is a good thing, and Archer telling him, no, it's not. You are leading yourself down a path of nothing but suffering, and once you get to the end, you are going to realize it is not worth it. And Shiro going, nuh-uh, and Archer going, yeah, huh, nuh-uh, yeah, like, you know that scene in The Emperor's New Groove where the two gets, yeah-huh, 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 yeah-huh? It's basically that, and then eventually Archer goes, okay, I believe you. That's how it felt. I remember just not getting into it. I'm hoping when I get to that part in the visual novel, like actually reading the source material, it will work better, it will make more sense. So I feel like I definitely empathize and sympathize with, I don't want to say empathize with him because I'm like, this guy's fucking nuts. But I feel like I understand Shiro more, and it does make me like his character more. Hopefully that'll carry over into UBW as well. Let's see. Okay, I think just some of the other things I wanted to say about Shiro, just kind of like minor things before I kind of get into his big thing, is I like the way he's written when it comes to the female characters. He is not like super oblivious. He is not, but okay, he's not super oblivious when it comes to women, but he's also not super perverted. It is, he's attracted to all three of them, and he's attracted to all three of them in every route. He's not a creep about it, but he's also not stupid. Like, yeah, like they're attractive. I can tell. I know. I mean, I think there's a nice balance there. I think projection magic is just badass. He can just create fucking Excalibur. It's like, yeah, it's not quite as strong, but it's still Excalibur. It'll still fuck shit up. Or like when he projects Avalon like, at the climax, like, oh, he made it perfectly. It's super hype. I think it's a really cool thing. So, there's this whole recurring theme of him not wanting Saber to fight. The way I feel like it is intended, and I feel like it comes across like this for the most part as well, is for Shiro, when Saber first fought Berserker, she got really badly injured. And that image of her, like, standing there with her sword as she's bleeding and just exhausted, lives in his mind rent-free after that moment. He sees this woman barely holding on for his sake, because she is his servant, and he says, no, never again. I want to help people. I want to make people's lives better. I can't have someone doing that, especially on my behalf. I can't sit back and do nothing. And there is something kind of noble about that. But the way he kind of says it to Saber, and the way he kind of thinks about it at times as well, is essentially, yeah, but you're a girl, you shouldn't be fighting. And it just comes off as really sexist. Especially given it's like, no, like, she's a knight, and like, you see her fighting shit, Shiro, she's badass. But no. And it's like, it's part of like his conversation with her at the end too. He's like, you're not made for fighting, you don't have the spirit for that. It almost kind of feels like he's saying this like, because you're a woman. And I'm like, I don't know about this one, Chief. And then it does lead to that story arc of him like, I want you to train me because I don't want you fighting servants, but I'll fight servants. After he had already tried fighting Lancer and got killed. Excuse me. And almost got killed again. And, you know, he got hit by a Berserker and his back fucking exploded. Like, it this part of Shiro's character annoyed the hell out of me. It was that specifically. It was that you can't fight, but I will. But Shiro, everyone in this room, you, me, and Rin, we know you can't. And it's not just, oh no, we don't believe in you. But, you know, maybe you can't. It's like, no, you literally fucking can't. This is stupid. This is moronic. I don't care. This is how we're gonna do it. To me, that part was not endearing. It just got on my fucking nerves. But the one thing I will say that I remember really liking is when he is offered the Grail. As Kyrie says, I was like, yeah, all those people that died, you can save them. You can use your wish, you can use the power of the Grail, save those people. Almost like the fire never happened. On the one hand, so it's like I said, I like it, and I do. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I first read it, though, because the way it feels is that Shiro is just he's saying no because he doesn't think it'll work. He's like, I know the Holy Grail can't actually do that. I know it can't alter the past. It can't change anything. Kira's like, no, it literally can. It make grants wishes, dude. No. I know it can't, so you can't tempt me with it. I thought that was kind of weak. It was like this, like that's the reason why you're saying no, because you don't actually think it'll work. That's kind of dumb. But his other reasoning, at least the way I understand it, is it's Shiro letting go of his guilt. And this is the reason I think that his survivor's guilt has the most profound impact on his motivation, more than wanting to pay it forward and more than, like, again, that kind of childlike altruism, is because the way I read it and understood it, the moment where he rejects the Grail, he's essentially saying, I am not going to be haunted by these ghosts again. I am not going to let my past chain my present and my future. I can still help people. I don't mind that. I want to be able to help people. But not at the cost of myself anymore. I am not their slave. I am my own fucking person. I reject this. This is not something for me to do. And the way I kind of is like, so yeah, like going forward, he is actually going to think about himself. He's going to take care of himself and be willing to be selfish. And I do like that overall as an ending. Like, we'll kind of see when we get to Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel what I think of the endings. I have no fucking clue how Heaven's Feel ends. But I would say, I think the Fate route is good. There's moments of it that are kind of shaky. Again, there's some servants that don't get a whole lot of attention. That whole chunk of Shiro going, I'm going to fight servants, even though we all know I can't, fucking annoyed me. But I loved the climax, and I liked what I got out of the ending. And while I do have my problems with the main two characters at times, I did enjoy them overall. I enjoyed their narrative, and their sex scenes are some of the funniest, most entertaining shit I have ever experienced.